Hello there, followers of fear. For a while now, I've been wanting to talk about how to get a writing habit started, for people who want to be writers. Because if you want to become a writer, you need to write. That often involves making writing a habit, a regular one. And that seems obvious, but it surprises many people that they may need to develop a habit of writing regularly in order to get any writing done in the first place. And even if they do realize it, developing that sort of habit, it can be hard. It's not addictive after all. So I thought, well, actually, it could be addictive. To the right person. Anyway, I thought I would do a video about the subject. After all, I've been writing for about 20 years and getting published for 13, so I have some experience in that arena. And why a video? Well, I thought about doing a blog post or an article, but there are plenty of those, and I've talked about this issue before on my blog. But on my YouTube channel, I haven't talked about the particulars of writing fiction that much. Plenty of ghost hunting videos, readings from my work, and talking about Hannah and other stories, but not so much on the craft of writing. So, doing a video on the craft seemed like a welcome change. And besides, there's probably plenty of people who will learn more from a video than from a blog post or essay, even if it's just filmed on my laptop and posted mostly unedited on the internet. But hey, I'm a writer, not a video editor. You get what you get. Also, because I'm told this will help this video and my channel by doing it near the beginning rather than the end of the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. Also, if you would like to support me in my writing endeavors, or if you're looking for something spooky to read, you can buy any of my books from most major retailers. I have 5 books and a few short stories out there right now, and reading them is a great way to support me, as well as leaving reviews on my work. That way, not only will I know what you think, but so will other readers. I'll leave links to my work in the description and in a pinned comment. Now, a couple of things before we get into this. First, this video is not going to tell you how to find publishers for your work. That's a topic for an entirely separate video. No, this is just about getting into the habit of writing and editing your work. That's the most basic thing a writer needs to do to be called a writer, and it's where all writers start. So that's what we're going to focus on. Second, I'm not going to tell you how to write a bestseller. Nobody knows how to write a bestseller. It's such a luck-based thing that you can't really teach a class on it. Hell, even the term bestseller is difficult to define. And even if I knew how to write a bestseller, well, I would be living in a big custom-made Victorian mansion for one thing. And from or another, you think I'd be telling you for free on YouTube? No, I would be charging $250 per person to sit in an auditorium and hear me talk about it for an entire day. And third, I'll be reading off a script for this video. You might have actually already noticed me doing that, probably from my eyes flicking back and forth, but I'm reading from a script that I wrote up the other day and edited before recording. I'm doing that because I have a lot to talk about, and writing it down beforehand is the best way to organize my thoughts. Plus, it'll keep me from stumbling over my words. My brain moves faster than my mouth sometimes, trying to think of the right thing to say. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Now, are we all done with all this prep? We are? Good. On we go! Where was I pointing to? So, the first thing you need to do to get into a writing habit? Carve out time for you to write. Seems obvious, but it's still something that needs to be said out loud. Carve out that writing time! You're not going to stumble on a block of time that's perfect for writing, and a fairy in a blue dress waving a magic wand isn't going to suddenly show up, wave that wand, and say, there, you now have 3 hours to work on a story. No, you must carve and set aside time in the 24-hour day to write. And I know that can be difficult. We all have busy lives. Work, school, commuting, running errands, doing housework, taking care of families, spending time with our loved ones. Not to mention the time we spend on eating, sleeping, and taking care of our mental health. And don't neglect those, by the by. You can't write anything if you're not taking care of yourself physically and mentally. Take care of those. Seriously. But still, you need to make that time or you'll never get anything done. And it doesn't have to be a huge amount of time. Just use time when you're not doing anything too important and you can get some work done. I usually use my evenings after dinner but before bed to write. This is a couple of hours that work for me and allows me to get stuff done. And my friend Angela Misri, known for the Portia Adams mystery novels, wrote her books in notebooks for 30 minutes at a time on the bus to and from work. At least I think that's what she did, if I remember correctly. Look, just find a time that works for you. You'll be amazed what you can accomplish. And before you say, I'm still not sure if I can carve out the time to write, my life is so busy, let me tell you something. You ever heard of Stephen King? Before he hit it big with Carrie, he would write 2,500 words a day in the laundry room of the trailer his family lived in. This was with a full-time teaching job, a side job working at gas stations and places like that, and 3 young children to take care of. If you can do all that and get some writing done on the side, you can too. And one more thing on that, by the by, you don't have to write every day. You can if you want to, but it's not mandatory. Just write often enough that you get into that habit of writing regularly. If you let too much time elapse between writing sessions, you won't be able to make it a regular thing, which makes getting a single story done an impossible task. Next thing, and this is really important, write something you would want to read. Even better, write something you want to read and you would feel passionate enough about to write. I know. Seems obvious, but you get a lot of new writers and even some veteran writers who write stories because they think that's what the publisher wants to publish, or because they think that sort of story will sell well. And you know what? Maybe it is what a publisher wants, or maybe it is what will sell well. But guess what? You won't feel passionate about it. You're just doing it for money, like a day job. And you'll start to resent writing because you won't love the stories you're creating. You'll just be doing it because it's a good way to make money and pay the bills. And before you know it, you're burned out and never want to write another story again. No, believe me, it's better to write something you would want to read, something you would feel passionate about, both as a reader and as a writer. If you want to write a story about the society of hyper-intelligent cats living in a post-apocalyptic future America, write that story. If you want to write a story about an old woman recounting how she traveled through time as a teenager, lived through the most exciting events of the last century, and met her best friend from before he time traveled as an old woman, write that story. If you want to write a series about Alice from Alice in Wonderland, being turned into a vampire, adopted by Dracula as a vampire princess, and meeting famous figures from Victorian and Edwardian literature in an original epic saga, then somebody please write that story. I want to read it. Hell, I might even collaborate with you on it. It just sounds like a lot of fun. Moving on. But yeah, it's better to write something you would love to read, something that comes from the heart. Trust me, you'll find it far more profitable than 20 blockbuster books written with the intention of pleasing an audience. And so, if you can carve out the time to write and you can find something to write that you feel passionate about, then you have what's needed to start writing. And from here, the important thing is to obviously write. But how much writing should you do? You may think that's obvious. Get down as many words as possible. No, don't do that. Don't do that because you'll be frustrated if you don't spend every second writing and getting words down. Instead, set yourself a word count goal. I say word count, by the way, instead of page count, because pages can vary in size, as well as the size of the words on them. And the words per page, oh boy, all that, it makes things confusing. Just Word counts are a bit more static, which is why the publishing industry tends to use them. Rather than saying a story has to be this many pages, they say a story has to be 7,500 words. Anyway, set a word count goal for yourself. A minimum number of words you want to get down before you finish your writing session. I would start out aiming for 250 words, which is about a page or so when I write. It's a manageable amount, and if you want to go past it, then you can. As you get more used to writing, you can increase that amount, that minimum word count. I usually aim for 500 words per writing session, and I know some writers who aim for 1,000 words per writing session. And guess what? If you make it a regular habit, you'll find it like a switch turning on in your brain. Before you hit 250 or 500 or whatever your minimum is, you'll find the words flowing through you and onto the page. More often than not, I aim for 500 and end up anywhere between 700 and 2,000 words, sometimes more. Now, as you go about writing your story, you may find yourself thinking, what I'm writing is crap. I need to go back and fix a bunch of stuff. That's perfectly normal. We all think at times what I'm writing is crap. You know what isn't normal? Actually going back and fixing huge swaths of the story. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but guess what? You're writing your first draft of the story. It's supposed to be crap. It's the rawest form of the story. It's freshly put down on the page and full of spelling mistakes and possible plot holes and other issues. You can't expect it to be perfect on the first draft. It's basically a garden full of manure. You have to draw seeds from it. And speaking of perfect, let me dispel something. There's no such thing as a perfect story. Why? Because stories are written by humans, and humans are imperfect beings. Therefore, we can never have a perfect story. Heck, even though I'm technically an interdimensional being here to bring you fear and stuff, I am still partly human. So, I'll never write a perfect story. What I will do is something what my high school English teacher, or Mr. Guinan, used to say. Write something that's done. What does that mean? Well, you've edited it as much as you can. Anything you add or subtract now would just ruin the quality of the story. It's not perfect, but it's done. You've done all you can, so might as well just start sending it out and seeing if you can find a publisher. I remember those words for a reason, and I hope you do too, because they are some of the most important words, some of the most important advice you'll ever get as a writer. And I hope you also realize that getting to the done point of the story is accomplished over multiple successive drafts. You can't get there on the first draft. So don't spend an hour making sure each line is a work of art, or you'll never get anything done on time. Or done at all, even. And don't go back in the middle of this first draft to fix up a whole section. Maybe clean up a line or two, but don't go back and rewrite entire chapters, leaving the rest of the story unwritten and waiting for you to get back to it. Otherwise, you'll have one heavily edited beginning and a middle that's bare bones without anything to go with it. I met a writer once who actually did that. He went back in the middle of the first draft to clean up an entire section, and he didn't know how he could go on because he'd edited the first section to such a point that the middle section did not match, and he wasn't sure how to fix that, and he was just at a standstill. So don't go back and do that and fix until the first draft is done. And if you still say, but it's really bugging me that the beginning portion isn't better, think of it this way. Imagine that somebody builds an apartment building, but before the floors, walls, and ceilings are finished, the builder says they need to paint the walls and can't go on with anything else until the walls are a pristine shade of off-white and until the mantelpieces are done as well. You got to have those fancy mantelpieces. And you see where the problem is you're going to have some pretty fancy mantelpieces and some nice painted walls, but the floors, You could easily fall through the floors. There's no walls, no privacy. You get where I'm going. And that's the kind of problem that you're going to have when you keep going back to clean up huge swaths of the story you're writing. Trust me, it's just better to get that first draft done, and then you can worry about making it nice and pretty and done in the next several drafts. Painting those walls and adding those mantelpieces and the lintels and all, and fancy doorknobs. So, to reiterate, in order to build a writing habit, you need to A, carve out the time to write and do it regularly. B, write something you're passionate about. C, have a minimum word count goal so you're not desperately trying to get down as many words as possible. And D, make sure to get your first draft done in the first place before you go back and start making major changes or polishing up large sections of the story. And that's basically it. That's how you start your writing habit. And if you keep at it, you'll be getting stories written out in no time. Just make sure to take breaks every now and then so you can recharge mentally and creatively. Trust me, those help immensely. Put on a movie, drink some tea, go for a walk. You will thank me later. Also, if it helps, to try putting some stuff around you that helps you get into the writing mood to help you concentrate. When I write, I usually have something to drink, like soda or tea, alcohol, well, if it's a weekend. And I like to have music playing in the background, and I like to burn incense. All that helps me focus on my writing. Find something that works for you, and you'll find writing much more enjoyable, where you find that distractions bug you a lot less than they used to. And that's all for now, my followers of fear. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer them as best I can. If you like this video, let me know as well. If enough people respond, I'll do more videos on topics like editing, finding a publisher, and what the actual hell is a bestseller. Seriously, it's a topic that I've been wanting to rant about for a while. But until such time, my followers of fear, good night and pleasant nightmares!